Seeing Myself and Others in the Mosaic of Belonging and Othering in Education by Sandra Ponte and John Philpott.
When looking at our identities, we need to consider what that means and the various layers that make up who we are. Over time, I have identified myself as Sandra de Fatima Cordero de Pont, she, her, or they, Azorian, daughter, sister, aunt, single, Caucasian, Christian, educator, friend, 41 years old, and lower to middle class.
And I identify as John Philpott, he, him, Caucasian, Canadian living in the US, husband and father, colleague and friend, a technologist, an atheist, 42 years old, and in upper and middle class.
Looking at each of our identities, we've come up with a list of commonalities. Although there are a few things that we have in common, John and I are still quite different from one another. It is these differences that make up our diverse community of learners.
As Caucasian people with European backgrounds, we've also come to realize how privileged we are. We have access to educational resources. Our educational system allows for freedom of expression and speech. We are not subjected to racism. We're able to practice a religion of our choosing or none at all. We're able to vote. We have options for financial aid, and we have access to adequate medical care.
Diversity LCC 2019 section 224 states, quote, equity is fairness for all, regardless of visible and invisible identities, end quote.
Sandra and I are both immigrants, though we came at this at different points in our lives. Sandra immigrated to Canada as a young child, while I immigrated to the United States in my early 30s. But as immigrants, we've both experienced instances of discrimination, as well as assumptions and microaggressions based on our nationalities. Outside of our immigration status, our families face challenges in securing housing because we both came from single parent households. We were unable to participate in father events at schools. The way our culture identified gender roles limited what we were able or not able to do. Sandra has also faced exclusion because of language barriers.
According to Breakaway 2017, paragraph 3, quote, a brave space encourages dialogue, recognizing difference and holding each person accountable to do the work of sharing experiences and coming to new understandings, a feat that's often hard and typically uncomfortable, end quote. Our educational journey at Ontario Tech has taken place through brave and safe spaces where students were encouraged to exchange ideas and experiences without judgment. Our experience at Ontario Tech has been enriched through the exposure to diversity in its community and culture. It is interesting to note that when John and I were working on this assignment, we looked at things differently. My perspectives were based on experiences. John's was based on how his experiences differed from others. According to Klein 2020, culture is an ongoing negotiation of learned and patterned beliefs, attitudes, values, and behaviors, section 133. As part of being an ally, we have to recognize our privileges and make sincere attempts to deprogram behaviors and face implicit biases that have been normalized as part of our culture.
Norms and rules are passed down on how one ought to think of themselves and how one ought to think of the world and other people, and how to act on those norms. Klein 2020. To create safe and brave spaces for everyone around us, we need to reframe our mindsets and unlearn some of the misconceptions or norms we were taught by society and our parents as children. Through learning, we can pass more inclusive norms to our children and the next generation, which can improve society as a whole. Society largely wants to change. Equity groups are working towards fairness and eliminating discrimination for minority groups such as people of color, indigenous, LGBTQ+, women, and people with disabilities. As allies, we are educating ourselves about these equity groups, what they represent, and how they advocate for their communities. We are partnering with them to raise their voices and work towards the fairness and end to discrimination that we all strive towards. Thanks for watching.